Welcome to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today we have a really fascinating mission. We are trying to uncover exactly why so many wildly successful businesses just quietly erode rather than collapsing overnight.
Right. It's usually not some massive explosion. It's a slow fade.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited to get into this with you today.
Same here, and our sole source for this entire deep dive is a newly published article. It just came out today, actually, May 21, 2026.
Yeah, fresh off the presses.
Exactly. It's by John F. Hendershot, and it has this incredibly catchy title, The Most Dangerous Sentence a Business Owner Can Say, which, makes you wonder what that sentence could possibly be.
Oh, for sure. You'd think it would be about, I don't know, bankruptcy or something.
Sure. If I asked you, the listener, to guess the most dangerous sentence in business, you'd probably think it's about losing a major client or maybe a sudden market crash, but it's actually just 5 really simple words.
5 very unassuming words. Someday I'll figure it out.
Yeah. Someday I'll figure it out. And I want to put a direct question to you, the listener, right now. How many times in your own life or your own career have you used the word someday as a shield against dealing with something complicated?
I mean, we all do it, right?
No, absolutely. Like
Yeah.
someday I'll organize the garage or someday I'll fix my resume.
Right. But when business owners do it, I mean, owners making anywhere from 400 grand a year to founders running $10 million companies, the stakes are just astronomically higher.
Because they're using it to avoid the really heavy stuff.
Exactly. They use someday to mean they know they should deal with succession planning or tax strategy or operational dependency, but they don't
Why don't they, though, if they know it's important?
because they're just completely consumed with surviving the present. They are putting out today's fires.
Yeah.
But the author points out that this sentence, this mindset, it actually destroys more enterprise value than actual market downturns.
Wow. More than market downturns? That is wild.
It is. Because by permanently pushing the future over the horizon, they're undermining everything they're building today.
Which means if these owners are just surviving the present day to day, they must have a really fundamental misunderstanding of what the future actually means in this context.
Oh, completely.
Okay, let's unpack this because the article spends a lot of time redefining the whole concept of exit planning.
Right, and dismantling the myths around it, because the someday syndrome comes from this idea that exit planning is just, retirement.
Yeah, people hear exit plan and they picture like a gold watch or selling the company and moving to a beach to drink margaritas.
Cashing out.
Right, cashing out. But the text stresses that exit planning is absolutely not about retiring. It's about building a company strong enough to outlive its founder.
Yes.
It's kind of like thinking of exit planning as just retiring is like thinking of structural engineering as just putting a roof on a house.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Right, because if the foundation isn't meant to stand on its own without you holding it up, the roof literally doesn't matter. The whole thing collapses.
What's fascinating here is the psychological block that prevents them from building that foundation.
What do you mean?
Well, owners aggressively avoid the topic because they subconsciously think exit planning represents the end. They associate it with their own obsolescence.
Ah, so it's an identity crisis.
Exactly. The authors suggest we really need to shift this paradigm. It's not the end. Building a self-sustaining system is an act of creation, not termination.
It's about making sure the business doesn't just die the second the owner's daily involvement stops.
Precisely.
And avoiding this structural foundation, it doesn't just put some theoretical feel-good legacy at risk. It puts cold, hard cash at jeopardy.
Huge amounts of cash.
Yeah, which brings us to the terrifying statistics the article brings up about the wealth trap. Because this isn't just an individual problem.
No, it's a massive macroeconomic threat.
Right. So according to the Exit Planning Institute, which is cited in the text, roughly 80% of business owners have the vast majority of their personal wealth trapped inside the business.
80%. Think about that. It's like having your entire life savings locked inside a vault. But the combination only works if you physically show up to turn the dial every single morning.
That is stressful. And it gets worse, right? Because the U.S. is entering one of the largest ownership transitions in history.
Yes, the silver tsunami.
The silver tsunami, yeah. Where millions of businesses owned by baby boomers are going to approach transition almost simultaneously.
Millions of them. And the brutal reality is that many of these businesses will just quietly disappear.
Wait, hold on, though. Let me push back on that slightly.
Sure.
If a business has great revenue, say they're pulling in $2 million a year, and the owner works incredibly hard, how does it just disappear? I mean, shouldn't a profitable business always be able to find a buyer? Profit is profit.
You would think so, but no. You have to differentiate between an active business and a transferable business.
Okay, what's the difference?
An active business makes money right now because the owner is physically pushing the boulder up the hill every single day. A transferable business makes money systematically, regardless of who is at the helm.
Oh, I see.
So these highly profitable businesses disappear not from a lack of revenue, but because they aren't operationally transferable. These owners can't even tell you what their company is objectively worth today.
Right.
They don't know what specific risks a buyer would challenge, and they absolutely couldn't guarantee the business would survive even 6 months without them.
Surviving 6 months without them. That timeline really perfectly tees up exactly why these businesses are so dependent on one person.
It really does. It's the core bottleneck.
Right. And the article goes into this heavily. Owners will build these impressive 30-year-old companies, yet somehow everything still revolves around their personal cell phone.
Their memory, their relationships.
Their approvals, their instincts. The list of roles the founder acts as is just exhausting. They're the sales team, operations, HR, customer attention, culture, problem solving.
They do everything.
Here's where it gets really interesting. It's like an incredible one-man band. You know, you see someone playing a guitar, they've got a bass drum on their back, a harmonica.
Right, playing the cymbals with their knees.
Exactly. And the music sounds amazing. But you can't sell a one-man band to another musician and expect the same song. The magic is the person, not the instruments.
That's a perfect analogy.
Yeah.
And the author introduces a really crucial term for this dynamic in the text, exhaustion risk.
Exhaustion risk. I like that.
Yeah, because when sophisticated buyers look at a company, they aren't evaluating a self-sustaining machine. They're looking at a system entirely propped up by one exhausted individual.
And the moment that individual steps away, the whole ecosystem just collapses.
Exactly.
So what happens when a buyer actually tries to purchase this exhaustion risk? Because the reality of the acquisition process today sounds pretty brutal.
Oh, it's a completely different landscape than it was a decade ago.
Right. The market has changed. Buyers, private equity groups, acquisition teams, they dissect these businesses with extreme scrutiny now.
Forensic scrutiny.
Yeah. And the text says the first offer is not the finish line. Due diligence is where these deals quietly die.
It is an absolute minefield.
So let's look at the specific red flags the source mentions that kill these deals, because it gets very mechanical here.
It does. They look at everything.
They mention numbers not reconciling, right? Like tax returns contradicting internal reports.
Yes, that's a huge one.
And vendor agreements that are entirely handshake-based. Or processes that only live in some messy notebook. Or worse, just inside the founder's head.
Right, or key employees who don't have contracts.
Yeah.
Dangerous customer concentration.
Yeah, wait, let me challenge that on behalf of the listener for a second.
Go for it.
If a company is pulling in millions in profit, surely a private equity firm can overlook a few handshake agreements in some sloppy notebooks, right? I mean, money talks?
You'd think that. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the source has a core rule. Profitability alone no longer guarantees transferability.
Profitability does not equal transferability.
Exactly. A buyer sees those notebooks and those handshakes as a guarantee that the moment the founder leaves, the profits vanish.
Because the relationships leave with the founder.
Right. If you don't have a contract, what's stopping that vendor from raising prices by 20% the day after the sale? Or just walking away? So buyers won't just overlook it. They mathematically penalize the valuation. They'll structure deals as earnouts, where you only get a fraction of the money up front, and the rest is tied to performance over the next 3 to 5 years.
Which means the exhausted founder is trapped in the business for another 3 years anyway.
Precisely. Defeating the whole purpose. And the accounting thing you mentioned, the tax returns not matching internal reports.
Yeah, why does that happen?
Because for 30 years, the owner runs the business to minimize taxes. They run personal expenses through the company. They optimize to show very little profit to the IRS.
Right, paying less tax.
But then they go to sell, and suddenly they need to show maximum profit to get a high valuation. A sophisticated buyer sees those unreconciled numbers, and they don't see a quirky management style.
What do they see?
They see an audit waiting to happen. It's a massive liability.
Wow. Okay, so realizing that due diligence is just going to ruthlessly expose all these flaws, the notebooks, the handshakes, the messy accounting, when is the right time to start fixing all this?
The timeline is everything. Exit planning needs to begin when the business is healthy, not when the owner wants to retire.
That makes sense. Doing it early actually improves the business itself.
Exactly. You document systems, you clean up financials, you develop your leadership team.
The article brings in some outside research here too, which I found super interesting. There's PwC research showing that proactive governance and succession planning actually positions companies for long-term sustainability.
Yes, they just run better today.
Right. And then the Family Business Institute notes that a lack of succession prep is a leading cause of multi-generational transition failure.
That's why so many family businesses don't survive to the kids or grandkids. The owner didn't build a system, they just handed over a chaotic job.
Which brings me to my favorite quote from the source. This is hard-hitting, the author asks. Is the company actually organized, or have I simply learned how to personally carry the chaos?
That is the ultimate question.
It really is. I mean, I liken this to someone who has lived in a totally cluttered room for 10 years.
Oh yeah, we all know someone like that.
Right, there's laundry everywhere, stacks of mail, and they genuinely think the room is organized just because they personally know where their car keys are buried.
Right, they have a system in their head.
Exactly. But if they asked a stranger or a buyer to walk into that room and find the keys, impossible. They haven't organized the space, they've just memorized their own mess.
That is a brilliant analogy. And recognizing that difference between true organization and memorized chaos is what the author defines as leadership maturity.
Leadership maturity.
Yeah, it's about asking responsible questions, not pessimistic ones. Things like, what happens if I become ill?
Right. Could my family navigate this mess? Are my employees actually secure?
Exactly. It's taking responsibility for the structure you've built.
And avoiding these questions doesn't stop the inevitable, right? It just means you won't be ready. Which kind of brings us to our final wrap-up here.
Yeah, the fundamental truth we can take away.
Right. The fundamental truth from the source is simple. Every single owner eventually leaves their business. The survival rate is 0.
0%.
The only difference is how they leave.
Exactly. They either leave through strategic preparation, which creates options and preserves value, or they leave through crisis, which creates vulnerability.
It's not about luck. It's about preparation that preserves jobs, protects families, and secures your legacy. So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah, how does this apply if you don't own a $10 million company?
Exactly. Whether you own a business or you just manage a team, or honestly, even if you just organize all the family events, evaluate your own exhaustion risk, where are you personally carrying the chaos?
That's a powerful thing to reflect on. And to leave you with a final thought, to mull over something that builds on this, but applies to everyone, think about the digital footprint of your own life or career right now.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. If your phone dropped in the ocean today and you suddenly couldn't be reached by anyone for a month, how many systems or projects or even personal relationships would immediately grind to a halt?
Just because the passwords only exist in your head.
Exactly. True freedom isn't about being indispensable. It's about building systems so good that you are no longer strictly necessary.
I love that. True freedom is building systems so good that you are no longer strictly necessary. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It was a pleasure.
We set out to understand why successful businesses erode, and we got a true masterclass in preparation and legacy. Until next time, take a look at your own systems, and whatever you do, don't tell yourself you'll figure it out someday.